What's going on, guys? Greg Freak here, and in this video we're going to talk about Bradley Beal and potentially to the Miami Heat. Now, before I get to that, I'm going to go over sort of the short list of things that happened, which, of course, Jimmy Butler signing with the Miami Heat as their main target going into it. Now, many people thought the fact that the Rockets would be as far as a sign and trade option, but the Miami Heat came in, and many people didn't really expect it, even though it was on the radar, and the Miami Heat were much included on trying to trade for Jimmy Butler before. I definitely made a video on that previously before when he was with the Timberwolves. And not only that, I also talked about the fact that Hassan Whiteside was on the trading block and asked for a trade. I noticed that some people thought the fact that that was, I guess, false information, but as far as that, it did happen. He got traded to the Portland Trail Blazers for Miles Leonard and Mo Harkless. As far as that, I think the fact that it benefited both teams. It got off that contract of Hassan Whiteside from the Miami Heat, and in that situation, it also gave the Portland Trail Blazers a better defensive center and somebody who's only on a one-year contract, so you don't have to worry about if he doesn't perform at a high enough level. You can be able to either renegotiate a contract a little bit lower, or if it works out completely horrible, you can just move on completely and you'll have that cap space the next year. But as far as that, this also leads us to their next target in the free agency, basically era that is this offseason, and going into Bradley Beal of the Washington Wizards. And the Heat are interested in trading for Bradley Beal. Now, this is an obvious reason why they would be interested in somebody of his talents, considering the fact you do want this. Miami's obviously trying to rush together a very, very well thought out plan as far as players to go along with Jimmy Butler. And Bradley Beal would be a great option whenever we're talking about a second option whenever we go down to it. We saw what Jimmy Butler was capable of doing in the playoffs with the Philadelphia 76ers, definitely being able to close out games. We know the fact that he has a very high PER and very efficient when it comes to the late game situations. And Bradley Beal, who in the absence of John Wall, really stepped up and had a very great year, scoring 25.6 points per game, 5.5 assists per game, 5 rebounds. Even though, despite that being the main person to be defending, his three-point percentage went down from the previous year from 37% to 35% this year, and still maintaining a very good field goal percentage for his position, shooting around 47.5% from the field. So whenever we look at this, we're going to be talking about, of course, he would become more efficient, considering the fact that he'll have another scoring option that is more reliable than what he had on the Washington Wizards, and that dysfunction that goes on in that organization. Now, the real question is about this. I made a video, of course, about the fact that you needed, as the Washington Wizards, to choose to trade somebody over a year ago. But in that situation, I said that you needed to most likely pick John Wall to be traded. Now, I got much about half and half reviews as far as in that video about trading one of those two players, saying they're too young, you don't want to do it. But I was looking ahead at that John Wall contract, and now that John Wall had tore his Achilles, it's very clear nobody's going to want to take on that contract with John Wall, knowing his injury history and everything to it. And Bradley Beal is who you would want to build around. Now, the unfortunate thing is, if you want to rebuild as the Washington Wizards, you're going to have to get rid of the pieces you can get rid of and start rebuilding that way. Now, the problem, of course, going along with that is the fact that they have yet to do anything major. Now, they did end up making the trade with the Lakers, getting some assets in return in picks and something that you would be willing to, but you know those picks are not going to be that very great. So you're going to start looking at trading away even your good talent in Bradley Beal. So in my opinion, I think the fact that Bradley Beal and Jimmy Butler could work very well together, considering the fact you're talking, of course, somebody else who can spread the floor. I think the fact that if this was just the team to go with right here, I don't think the fact that we're talking about a team that's directly, of course, in the contentions for the Eastern Conference. I think that's right now, depending on what Kawhi Leonard does if he leaves, I think it would be the 76ers and the Bucks as far as competing for the Eastern Conference for this season. I also don't believe the fact that Kevin Durant's going to come back for the postseason. I think he's going to take a full year off. and try to fully recover from that Achilles injury. So in this, I think the fact that the Miami Heat are trying to build up their team as well, and you can easily see why this could easily work. So now, of course, trading away Hassan Whiteside, you have the contract, that you have more space to be able to maneuver to make this type of trade for a Bradley Beal. Now, as far as this directly, I think the fact that we can see this becoming one of the more better teams in the Eastern Conference, and I love really where the Eastern Conference is going as a whole. It looks to me to be adding on so much more. It has more depth than it ever has had. I loved what happened with it this year as in contentions for it. Now, I got very disappointed though that the Indiana Pacers ended up getting injured, and I said the fact that it made it just a 4-team race rather than a 5-team race, which would be a lot more better. And I think the fact that this season it will be more of a 5-person race, meaning the fact that depending who has that 4 or 5 spot is going to be more in that situation to have to play 2 good opponents, and they don't really get a break at the beginning of the season. I would really like to see that being an actual thing like in the Western Conference. So as far as that, I think the fact that this would be a good fit as far as for them in a future building sense. You're going to have Bradley Beal to a good contract, you're going to have Jimmy Butler, and you can try to sort of rebuild. Of course, not as great as the big 3 that you originally had as far as whenever you formed it up in 2011, but I think the fact that this is definitely a good step in as far as what they have, and this would be the best team they would have since they had formed up and left as far as all together there. Now, with Chris Bosh having the blood clot injuries and then Dwayne Wade missing lots of seasons in between there, I think the fact that you have to look at this as probably the best team that they've had in quite some time as far as a talent base. And I just think the fact that together this can really work out very well. Now, of course, the questions are going to be what would they be willing to offer for this. Now, it may be a little bit of the future as far as some picks or something. But guys, tell me what your guys' thoughts are on this. Do you think that Bradley Beal to the Heat makes sense? Do you think the fact that Bradley Beal will be traded? And if so, which team do you think it will be to? And if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure that you guys leave a like and subscribe to become part of the Greek Army today. And as always, this is Sparta.